Today, I want to talk about metrics. And in particular, I'm talking about metrics that if you were working with me, this is how I would be evaluating you based on the most common position types and the most common goals that an employer would have. So specifically how this is going to benefit you is you will know exactly what is it that I should be putting on my resume and speaking to in my job interviews so that I can show that the impact that I'm making. And a lot of you that have followed me, I know a lot of you follow me for a long time, and you always hear me talk about the Great Eight. The Great Eight are the eight what I consider to be the most important goals that any employer would have that span the organization. They're things like generating revenue, right? We're all in business to make money. Market awareness, raising our brand recognition in the market. There's things like customer attraction, customer happiness. Number 5 is corporate growth. 6, employee happiness. 7, cost reduction, expense reduction. And 8, process efficiency. And I always tell you that when you are highlighting the impact you're making, they should be in alignment with one of those 8, if not more of the one or more of those 8. Today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you 36 metrics that I think, actually, there's actually even more, that fall under that umbrella of those 8, so you can get even more prescriptive in how you describe what you've accomplished. So I'm going to run through these. There is a lot of information about the Great 8 on my YouTube channel. If you want to check it out, you'll usually see videos titled with how to show your value or something of that nature. We're going to take it one step deeper, and that's what I'm going to cover with you today. So everybody in and buckled up? Let's roll. Okay, number one. Number 1 has to do with revenue generation. You can consider this selling of whatever, the widget, the service, the whatever it is to generate a dollar. There are a number of metrics that I would look at. And by the way, I'm not just talking about you need to be a salesperson. I have an accountant who keeps my books. He sells me stuff all the time, bills me all the time. That generates revenue. So you can come at this from many different angles, but let's look at the common ones. So revenue generation, I have 5 I want to hit you with, and then a bonus tip. So number 1 could be total dollars, right? Fairly simple. It's not too tough to understand, right? We want to raise the revenue. How do we do that? So what is going to bring in more total revenue? That's one metric you could look at. Another metric you could look at is growth. Did you expand? So even if it's not even if you don't know these specific dollars, maybe it's year over year growth and you do know the level of growth. Maybe it could be just the sheer top line number. Maybe it's growth in relation to what was happening in previous years. I coached somebody one time. We were working on her resume and job interview storytelling, and she was talking about when she was hired, she ended up growing an organization by $17 million, and that certainly is growth. But what also goes with the story is for the previous 5 years, they didn't grow $1. They were flat, 0 growth. So this is also, it's not just the sheer metric itself, it's the metric in context of what's happening. So I'm not going to say that every single time, but I want you to know that. It's the metric in terms of, you need to paint a picture for me. So the 17 million sounds great, but 17 million in the first year she was hired after 5 years of flat growth sounds mega impressive. All right. The average dollar that you're earning per sale. So some of you know my prices went up on different packages a few months back, right? So my average cost of product sale went up. That's another way to look at it. You can also look at it from a growth or average numbers perspective. You could look at it in terms of market expansion. Did you open up into new geographies? Did you open up a new product line? Did you open up into selling to different demographics, right? I've told a story in the past about how somebody had a product line but enhanced the product line to open up a whole new demographic of customers. That raised revenue. So all of this contributes to that. Did your conversion rate of whatever your interactions were? Maybe you're a coach and you used to have 10 conversations with prospects to get one person to enlist your coaching services. Maybe now you've doubled that to 2. So it's 2 for 10 instead of 1 for 10. Did your conversion rate go up? It's another way that you can contribute to revenue growth. And then just the sheer number of customers. And you need to, I always want you to paint the picture in whatever sells you best. And I wanna show you what I mean here. When you look at number of customers, then you might have expanded your company's portfolio of customers where the number of customers is going up, and you want to show that as a metric. But that might have hurt one of the other metrics. As an example, maybe your average cost of sale went down. For example, for some products that I have an interview intervention book that I essentially give you for free if you chip in a few dollars, $7 US, for me to pack it, pick it, pack it, and pay the service fees for the warehouse guys to get it out to you. That's a $7 purchase. While my number of customers in the Mile Walk Academy community might go up at $7 per purchase, my average sale generated dollars is certainly going to go down from my $1,000 boot camp. So I might not speak to you in those terms if I'm trying to advertise the fact that I'm increasing revenue as a result of increasing customers. Who follows me so far? I don't care how you paint the picture. Tell a true story in the context that sells you best. These are 5 metrics I would look at. And one other thing I want to say before I leave the revenue generation picture here is it's not always so cut and dry that you could say, well, Andy, I know I generated this much money. This goes in terms of advertising yourself on your resume or in an interview, but it also goes to your own peace of mind as you execute your job. Stepping stone goals are where it's at for everywhere in life, for all aspects of your life, for any of the functions that you have, any projects that you do, working your marathon running plan. Everything in life should be built off stepping stone goals. And so what do I mean here? Well, it's not just about enjoying the journey, which I want you to do, but in the context of metrics, if I'm building a salesperson, meaning I'm coaching and mentoring a salesperson to become more efficient, or I'm growing an entire team, I'm not just looking at the metrics that I'm handing them that says, hey, young man, your quota is $1 million for this year. For me to judge the person only on the metric itself would be a little bit unfair, because if this is a new person, it might take them a little longer to build their book of business. So there are these stepping stone goals that I would break down, just like anything, and I'll use the sales analogy because it's easy to understand, but you could do this for anything that you do. Well, I know that a sale is going to be a function of what? The person's knowledge of the product, the person's ability to research and identify prospects, the person's ability to make a number of phone calls. The number of phone calls they make per day to make a sale is a stepping stone goal. The more phone calls they make, the greater the likelihood that they're going to make a sale. The more conversations they have, the greater the likelihood. The more proposals they're able to submit to those customers or are requested to submit to those customers, I know they're going to make a sale. And as we work down the chain of anything that you're doing, those stepping stone goals are incredibly important to monitor. So for example, I've worked with a number of salespeople who said, well, Andy, I was only there a short period of time, 6 months, and then we went through a reduction in force and I was let go. How do I show my impact in terms of the revenue that I generated? Well, one of the stepping stone goals to generate revenue is to do what? To build a pipeline of customers. Did you build a pipeline of customers or prospects or some other stepping stone goal that you could point to that was you moving in the right direction, you making an impact that might not ultimately have come to fruition, but again, was an indicator that you were doing the right stuff the right way? So this is really important for you to recognize. If you're running a year-long project as a project manager, you have stepping stone goals along the way. I've got to get the committees in order. I have to get the buy-in. I have to get the requirements in order. I have to design the system. Those are all stepping stone goals. So as you work your way through a process. So I want you to keep in mind that these are important. All right, 11 minutes in. Who's loving it? I'm loving it because I love our time together. Because every Thursday is a little stepping stone that I get to climb on with you. Okay. Number 2, market awareness, raising market awareness, brand recognition. I got 5 more of these. Sheer number of leads. We'll call them prospects. You can call them leads. But basically, getting people to know you exist. So more of those. I would like more people to subscribe to my email newsletter. That is a lead for me because that person who joins my community who's interested in my work is certainly somebody who could potentially buy from me. How much does that lead cost? Well, it depends. Sometimes it's just free, right? Maybe some of you go to my YouTube channel and you watch a video and I didn't even know that in the middle of night in Kuala Lumpur, you were watching something that I put out 7 years ago, and you said, this Andy guy sounds like he knows what he's doing. He's got this free Ace Your Job booklet. I'm going to take that. That's a lead. It didn't cost me anything. Or I might pay for traffic or inorganic traffic, paid ads, in which case somebody who found me, who watched a video, who downloaded something might have cost me something. You might be spending a lot of money creating flyers. You might be spending money on inside salespeople that have to call out. You may pay for Google ads. I don't know, but the cost per the lead matters. We want that going down because we want it as low as possible. We want the conversion rate from a lead to a customer to go up. So that example that I was talking about with the previous card about your cost to secure a customer, that coach who had to do 10 prospect calls before she or he got one customer, that now only makes those same 10 but is able to get 2 customers, means their level of proficiency or efficiency in attaining the customer or converting the customer went up. Somebody who's running an ad, maybe the marketers who are running ads on Instagram or wherever are paying $10 a day to get these leads, but they're getting 50 leads a week, but only one of the leads is converting. But now can they pay $50 a week, but to get 2 leads to convert or 20 leads to convert? This conversion rate, when this goes up, not only are you saving money, but you're also identifying a better demographic of who is more likely to buy, which not only is making your sales easier, right? So that's more efficient. Your revenue's going up for the same amount of cost. That's good profit, right? Another way to look at it, market share. Is there $10 billion of money going into purchasing whatever it is you're selling, and you have 0% of that market share, and you're able to now grow it to 1 billion of the 10, in which case you have 10% of the market share, your share goes up. Now, with marketing is a really interesting arena because there are a lot of other ways to think about the impact that you're making from a marketing perspective. Because as an example, there could be level of engagement or other things that are on your social platforms or in your community or wherever it might be. It could be that somebody watches a webinar of mine, doesn't necessarily buy, but that is a level of engagement that's increasing, and I'm building a relationship with somebody in my community, which is increasing the likelihood that, well, number one, it's 100% increase in the fact that they know me better, they know more of my teaching, hopefully they like it, in which case I'm building a relationship with them, and it might take other additional touch points. But there's other ways to gauge whether your marketing efforts are working, so that if you have more engagements, if I have more people watching free webinars of mine, for example, that's just good. It's just good. And even if that person doesn't buy, that person might refer my work to somebody else who does buy. So there's a number of things that you could be evaluating. Are you having, from a technical standpoint, a faster click-through or a higher click-through rate? Meaning people are clicking on a page, but then they're clicking on a button that you want them to click on to go and do something that you want them to do. Take something you want them to take. Get something you want them to get. Those kinds of things. So there's a lot of other things that go along with marketing. And the bonus tip I want to give you here is you can look at things in terms of engagement. Maybe you're the social media manager. Maybe your number of followers is going up a little bit, but what you're really noticing is that there's just more comments on your posts. That's a greater level of engagement. That's better. That's a better marketing or building better marketing awareness through more interaction. It just simply is. So sometimes it's not super, super easy to quantify, but these are really important factors when it comes to whether or not you're improving the market awareness of your company. Okay, number 3, customer attraction. There's 4 of these. The total number of customers that you're attracting, the conversion rate. So how either quickly are you converting them, right? So for me, it would be awesome if you just showed up on a Thursday, listened to me talk, and then said, Andy, where do I sign up for that $1,000 program you have? That doesn't usually happen. I'd love for it to happen, but the faster you can get somebody, the better. Or the more of them you can convert, going back to that coach who had to talk to 10 people to get 1 customer and who now gets 2 or 3, that's better. The cost per customer acquisition, it's called a CAC, C-A-C. So how much is it costing me to acquire the customer? Similar to the marketing conversion rate. But this is what are the dollars it's costing me, not cost per lead. That's a marketing metric. Cost per customer. That's also a sales metric and a marketing metric. There could be increased web traffic. Does your web page, according to Google Analytics, just get more traffic? Are your videos getting more traffic? Or anything of that nature? Now, marketing and sales will have a huge, huge influence on customer attraction. All right, so far, so good. You guys loving it? Hey, that's 3. That's 3 of the 8. We're about a third of the way there. If you're enjoying this, make sure to click the like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Because you know what hurts me when you miss my free stuff every Tuesday and Thursday. All right, customer sat number 4. Got 5 of these. There is the score, meaning your customer satisfaction score from the surveys that you should be running. So it could be quantitative and qualitative, but I would get metrics on this. Are you a 9 on a scale of 10? Are you a 4.4 on a scale of 5? I don't really care. This should be done frequently, and it should be done quantitatively and qualitatively, meaning you should give them an opportunity to fill in stuff. But what's your score? Are the customers repeating for discrete purchases? How many of them are repeat buyers? Meaning they bought one thing from you and now they bought another thing from you. Or you might have the kind of product where there is a retention element. I have a job search coaching program. It's a one-time event. They pay, that's it. They're in for life. That's one purchase. I have a subscription, which we monitor the retention rate, which is a leadership coaching program. It's a subscription like Netflix, right? You pay every month or you pay every year. Some people are in for life, but what's the churn rate? So evaluating this depending on, again, what type of product or service you're offering. So when I look at those people who pay one time for my job search coaching program, I look at the percentage that actually is a repeat customer who buys the leadership coaching because it's a different product. So we know what rate one of the one-time purchasers do for the other. We know the retention rate for the leadership coaching program. That's a subscription rate. So we know if they keep buying and buying and buying or how long they last or what our turnover rate is. Now, number 4 is something I'm a little stickler about. Number 4 is the referral rate. At what percentage rate do your customers refer you? What do some people track? NPS, Net Promoter Score. Why does Andy not like the Net Promoter Score? Because referrals is a binary function. Net Promoter Score is a would you recommend us? A Net Promoter Score, for those of you who don't know what that is, in simplest terms, is basically what percentage of my customers are going to refer me based on a survey. I'm asking them, would you refer us? They say yes or they say no. You get a Net Promoter Score from an intention, not a behavior. When it comes to referrals, I want to see behavior. It's a binary function. Yes, they did refer you, or no, they did not refer you. That's the number I want. But a lot of you aren't going to have that number, so you're going to go with Net Promoter Score. Go with what you have. I just want you to know my sentiment on it. All right, lifetime value. Maybe you have a series of products and services. We know what the lifetime value of a customer in the Mile Walk Academy is because we have a number of different products that they can buy. So for as long as they stay, now some of them are in a subscription program, in which case their lifetime value will go up the longer they stay in here. Depending on what your product or service is, you want to look at the repetition in which they purchase, the retention in which they stay or do not stay, as well as the lifetime value. Those are the biggies. So those are my thoughts on customer sat, but I do have this one bonus because I do think there are other things that are great indicators of and without question an indirect measure of exactly how happy your customers are. Think about terms of like things like response time. If you improved the response time that the customer service rep took to resolve an issue, customer satisfaction inherently has to go up. Because if the response time to fix or the response time to get on the call or whatever it was faster, the customer themselves will be happier. Otherwise, they'll be sadder if it takes longer. It's true. Do you have service level agreements that you have to adhere to? 99% uptime. We have to resolve that issue within 3 days. Whatever it is. You could cite adherences and other things of this nature that will also indirectly influence what your customer sat scores are. So for some of you that are in those positions, you want to think about that. All right, corporate growth. This one's a biggie. It's 6, but there's a ton here, meaning there's more. There's many more. So corporate growth in all its facets. That's number of dollars, size, reach, share, number of employees, revenue per employee, whatever it is, EBITDA, earnings before interest, tax, depreciation, and so on. All of that's good. Any kind of expansion is also effective, meaning market share and those kind of things. But did you do something from a growth standpoint where you were able to raise money through an initial public offering or getting private equity money or venture capital money or something of that nature? That all goes under growth. And by the way, I probably should have said this at the beginning. A lot of these metrics will blend together. It's not for you to worry about whether it falls under market awareness or revenue generation or corporate growth. It makes no difference. I'm just telling you, all of these metrics are good metrics. You're calling out the metric on your resume. So don't worry about, well, how Coach Andy classifies it. I'm just telling you, these are all good. Put them wherever you want. Just make sure you're citing them. Product innovation. Did you create new products? Do you investigate the market for new products? Do you evaluate and draw conclusions about what types of product to develop, and then you turn it over to a product development team who actually builds it? Any of that stuff is great. Mergers, acquisitions, divestitures, maybe you were public, you went private, anything that does anything for the health of the organization. Partnerships. Maybe you expand the partnerships. Maybe you are the vendor manager of the organization, and you are helping your company grow by going out and recruiting new partnerships that are going to be selling or reselling your product or distributing or whatever it might be. Maybe you're on the risk management side. All of you in risk management, all of you in the accounting team or finance team or whatever. Maybe you're doing a whole bunch of stuff to ensure the risk is low, your stability is safe, your compliance is in order. All of this stuff, it's really like corporate growth and security from that standpoint. Okay, so that's another set. And then here again, I want to drive this home because this is a big honking deal. When I talk about corporate growth, anything that's health related falls into this bucket. So maybe it was portfolio diversification. I one time had a client, I will never forget this. She had at one point a 25-person company. And she was growing and growing and growing, and we were recruiting for her. And she had one of her clients was 50% of their revenue. And I said, have you really thought about recruiting salespeople to expand your portfolio? Because it's really risky. And she said, well, no, I'm not worried. I sit on the board of this company who is our client, and I'm an investor in them. And so, that's one of the reasons why we're their preferred vendor for these staff resources of technology and this and that and so on. I said, it doesn't matter. I'm telling you, you're flying without a net. And then she kept hiring people because they had more needs. And then she was 50 people and 60 people. And then she was climbing. And all of a sudden, that company decided it was more efficient. It was more efficient for them to use their own internal resources because they were paying a fortune in consulting fees. And all of a sudden, she lost half her revenue and she had to wipe out half her company overnight, just like that. So anything that you're doing to diversify the organization increases the health, because if any of the sectors that are your customers start to take a nosedive, you're positioning the company for better long-term stability. That's good. All right. Employee happiness. I got 5 of these. All right, SAT score. Y'all should be running employee satisfaction surveys annually at a minimum. Semi-annually is better. Quarterly is even better. This should be something that's quantitative, so meaning multiple choice. You give them, I'm not at all satisfied, I'm somewhat satisfied, I'm neutral, I'm very satisfied, or I'm in rapture. I love it here so much. Kind of thing, as well as free form areas where they could input their ideas and give you some qualitative feedback on what they're thinking and how you're doing. Level of engagement. Do the employees actually engage in, whether it's the projects, their work, could be volunteer stuff, it could be extra stuff, it could be the training you offer for free, it could be anything. There should be some way to measure this. Retention. A lot of you are going to get this. What's your employee turnover? But what your employee turnover is not just a metric of the overall company, because your overall company could be built based on a line share of a particular resource type that has a propensity for high turnover. Maybe you have a lot of salespeople in your organization, more salespeople per capita than you do anything else. And salespeople don't have a long shelf life, not in most companies. So you want to be looking at this not just as an organization, but you want to be looking at it across the units, and you want to be looking at it in relation to the industry standards for these position types, for these company types. Internal promotion rate. How many of your people are getting promoted? Are you doing a good job with succession planning? Are you doing a good job building their skills? And then this one, not to talk out of both sides of my mouth, ENPS is your employee net promoter score. It's a thing. It's asking your employees, would you recommend our company as a great place to work? Now, this, I care about the intent. I care about the sentiment. It's not, to me, a binary function in relation to the metrics I'm talking about. You are creating an environment where people say, yeah, I would recommend it. If they say that, we know they like it there. So from an employee net promoter score, I like the ENPS number. The fact that somebody would recommend their organization is a function and a direct correlation of how they feel. On the customer side, I want them to actually refer, because there's a huge difference between your intention and your behavior when you're outside the company. Okay, so this is another good one related to employee happiness and cost reduction. I want you to think, number 7, in terms of expense reduction. This is true expense reduction, cost-cutting initiatives. I'm getting rid of vendors. I don't need to use them. Just that example I gave you with the CEO. Hey, that client of hers did a major expense reduction by just getting rid of the vendors. Those are good ones. any expense reduction. This could be recycling, waste reduction. It could be anything related to that. Maybe there is a staff reduction, or maybe better yet, let's call it a staff reallocation. So it's out of this department and into that department in more value add areas. You're going to save money. Maybe there's maintenance costs that you're reducing. Hey, I was able to fix the machine or reprogram the software so that the maintenance costs, I only need to incur it once a year instead of twice a year. Could be something like that. So anything, think expense reduction when I say cost reduction. That's one grouping. But another way to actually save expenses is through process efficiencies. When I say process efficiency, when I'm talking about the Great Eight to round us out, I'm talking about operational improvements. I'm actually talking about processes that are being shortened or streamlined or improved. The accountant whose unit has a 10-day closing cycle for 5 people, that's 50-person workdays, who streamlines down to 5 days, that's an operational efficiency where now it's the cost in person power or personal costs is halved. That's a process efficiency that resulted in a cost reduction. Maybe your resource utilization, I'm talking about physical resources in this case, because resource and personnel utilization and optimization is an operational improvement, but there could be resources of physical or capital equipment. Maybe you're using it more efficiently. Maybe you only have to run it half the time. So those maintenance costs are reduced as a operational improvement you're making to a physical piece of equipment that's making it run more efficiently, so it needs to run less. Maintenance costs are also going to go down. Or maybe it's throughput. Maybe I'm able to get more widgets cranked out on the machine in a 24-hour period because I can run the machine longer. While my maintenance costs might go up, we decided as a company that the output of the widgets and the sales we're generating as a result of having 30% more widgets is going to far outweigh we'll just buy a new machine more frequently, or we'll have it serviced a little more. So when you look at process efficiency, it could be any of these. So those to me are, well, there was actually about 40 some odd that I gave you. But when you think of the Great Eight, I'm going to recap the Great Eight very quickly here. So think in terms of raising the revenue. There's a host of metrics there. Think in terms of your market expansion, and there's a host of metrics there. Think in terms of customer attraction, right? Total number, conversion rate, and so on. You've got customer satisfaction. We're looking for hardcore metrics. That's Starlet. No, that's Rocket. He says hi. I think he was trying to patiently wait till I was wrapped up with the teaching portion of this section. Corporate growth. This is a biggie. Corporate growth, corporate health, risk management, standardization, compliance, anything falls in this bucket. And then you've got employee happiness. You got employee happiness. Look for your satisfaction. Look for your engagement. Look for your retention. You got any kind of cost reduction from an expense standpoint, and to round it out, process efficiency. All right. If you enjoyed this talk on employee metrics, make sure to click the like button, subscribe to the channel. If you're here with me live, we're going to the chat. If you're watching this on the recording, I'll see you next week.